The meeting to order, if we're recording.
Yes.
Excellent. Could I ask for the roll call, please?
Commissioner Andrade,
Present.
Vice Chair Dominguez,
Present.
Chair Morton,
Present.
Commissioner Sales is not here. Commissioner Taylor,
Here.
Commissioner Vaughn,
Here.
Commissioner Woodstrake.
Here.
Let the record show that all members are present with Commissioner Sales absent.
Fantastic. With that, we'll move over to the Pledge of Allegiance. If you'll please join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. With that, I'll ask, are there any changes to the agenda?
There are no changes to the posted agenda.
Excellent. Before we move on to the action item, and today's discussion or this special meeting will be to help us firm up our results for our annual work plan. We'll get some direction from city staff.
Thank you, Chair Morton. Good afternoon, Public Health and Safety Commissioners. Nice to see you. Jennifer Campbell, Assistant City Manager. So I know that we're nearing the end of the first calendar year work plan in December. You folks have done a great job. You've already made one recommendation to City Council regarding Fire Station 6 and a type of fire engine that you'd like to see at that station as well. And that's been done and filed with Council. It looks like that item has gotten some traction at City Council. Just looking at some of the other items on here, just want to make sure we stay focused. I know Commissioner Taylor sent in a list of recommendations and some ideas for next year's work plan with the ad hoc that some of the commissioners were on. That has been distributed to all of you. It will also be part of the public record so that we make sure that the public sees what the commission has been working on. Rather extensive list. So what I just wanted to, as I talked to Commissioner Morton before the meeting, just want to make sure that we need to make sure that the work plan doesn't have too much, but has just about enough. So there was a lot of recommendations and a lot of actions. So looking, I know when we first started the commission, we sent you folks some work plans from several other commissions that have been established in the cities to see what those do look like. So just my advice for today as we continue and to start firming up the work plan is, having one or two recommendations to City Council a year is good. Also, it's about some of the activities that the commission can also undertake as a commission. Again, city staff is always here to collaborate and to work on things and whatever recommendation that the commission may make to City Council. And then if the City Council directs staff to do that, obviously we would. But it's also about what the commission can do. And, perusing Commissioner Taylor's list, I think there's some things that the commission yourselves could undertake, and I think that that would be great because obviously your folks were chosen for your experience and your knowledge and your expertise in different areas. So I just wanted to kind of set the stage that as you're going through different recommendations and actions and ideas from other commissioners, that we look to make sure we're making a couple recommendations to City Council, which is completely appropriate, and then looking at some of the recommendations that the commission feels that you can undertake in this next year, that you could work together collaboratively. Again, it can be on ad hocs and then coming together as a commission. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there, looking at that. I brought the Park and Rec Commission work plan with me tonight if we need any type of references, but I think you folks have a lot of great ideas. I just want to make sure that they're manageable for staff and for the commission and for City Council. So I really do appreciate you letting me take a little bit of time. I'll be here for the rest of the meeting, but you folks are, you're making a lot of headway, and I just want to make sure that whatever we propose, we can put into action, because I think that's important. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Commissioners, I'd like to open this up for comments back. Commissioner Taylor?
For clarity's sake, I just want to make it clear that the first portion of the document that I sent out are the recommendations for things that we were, within the scope of the work plan for this year. Then on the back end, those were my recommendations for, different changes for 2025. And ultimately, on that back end, it's probably going to result in one, maybe two additional actions, if that. But the rest of it is definite a response to the things that the ad hoc committee had been tasked to do for this year.
Thank you. I'd just like to communicate what I heard from you was, as we have this discussion, focus on recommendations. Again, today's discussion is based around the 2024 work plan as we've had it outlined and was approved by council. So today will be recommendations we will make with an ear towards efforts that we as a group are interested in working together to deliver as a fair assessment is my takeaway. Would you confirm that?
Yeah, thanks, Chair Morton. Yes, that would be great. And the thing is, obviously, as a group, as a full commission, you all want to have, or at least majority of you, buy in on what you want to see to do. So if I can really quick, I was just looking again, Park and Rec Commission work plan. A couple items that they've undertaken as a commission themselves. Review and monitor tennis courts and pickleball court use in the city parks. They want to, their Parks Master Plan, they're looking to focus on the Trails Master Plan and look if there's anything that they can do to help update, look at applications, trail maps, things like that. They are looking to support the Harbaugh Seaside Parkway development in Cardiff, which is being undertaken by the Cardiff by the Sea Foundation. They're supporting the Friends of the the Friends of the Encinitas Parks. They have that as well. They're also looking to update bylaws, which that would be something that we do need to look at. We do need the commission to come up with some bylaws, so that we'll need to put that on. All the commissions now have to work on bylaws coming up. And then they talk about naming and possible future uses of the property that was at around La Costa and the 101. That was given to them by City Council. So if you look at some of those activities, those are not things that they're having staff do. Those are things that the commission themselves are actually doing. And then what they would do is they would report back their findings to the Park and Rec staff, and then out of that might be a recommendation. For instance, if they're looking at the pickleball use in the city, they may find, wow, we don't have enough pickleball courts. So they would make a recommendation to City Council to build more pickleball courts. So that's kind of how some of those items work as well.
And I think as we go through, we can start, I think, with what Commissioner Taylor and his committee has prepared. We'll actually see, I think, some professional judgment on a number of things, and we can feel confident about some recommendations as we go through. So that's what I'm going to propose. I see people reading, so give you guys a couple more minutes, and then once I see all eyes up that they feel like you're ready to have a discussion about the document that Commissioner Taylor. Yeah? Yeah?
And just a quick side note, when you guys are ready to hear, there are 2 public speakers today.
Okay. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and have them come. Didn't see that in our agenda, so thank you for bringing that to my attention.
They are speaking on the item, and our first speaker is Madison Rapp, followed by Mark Maville.
Hi, thank you. Thanks for all the work you've done on the work plan, and looking forward to next year. Sounds like you already have some great ideas, so I look forward to looking through that as well. As a mother of 3 young children, I want to share my appreciation for the Red Ribbon Week events and activities that took place at the Encinitas School District schools. This last week, I've had 2 separate events that led to some important conversations with my own kids. First, I took my kids to run some errands, and when we got back in the car, I saw my 4-year-old holding a cigarette butt he had picked up on the sidewalk. I immediately got rid of it, but was worried he might have put it in his mouth. I used this opportunity to talk about how there are poisonous products out there that we do not want to put into our bodies. Then at my son's soccer game on Saturday, that same 4-year-old was playing around the edge of the field area and brought me a little metal package of marijuana he found discarded in the bushes. It should be obvious to most people that a child playing with a cigarette is unsafe, but it is concerning to me that it is now just as likely that they find litter from drugs as cigarettes. youth vaping remains a significant public health concern. According to the 2023 National Youth Tobacco Survey, 1 in 10 high school students and nearly 2 in every 25 middle school students reported vaping nicotine in the past 30 days. Flavored e-cigarettes are a major draw as they mask the harsh taste of nicotine with appealing flavors. Marketing and accessibility also play a role in the rise of youth vaping. Despite regulatory efforts, many e-cigarette products remain easily accessible to minors. Additionally, social influences such as peer pressure and social media further encourage experimentation and regular use among adolescents. Another concern found in a University of Arizona study is that students vaping nicotine, marijuana, or flavoring had higher odds of a suicide attempt in the past year compared to students who did not vape. It is so important to talk with our children about staying drug-free, and I think that this council could do a lot to include things in the public education system. So for future work plans going forward, I think it could be great to have more of that involved, and things like Red Ribbon Week are a great start to that, so we can have conversations with them. And thank you for the opportunity to speak, and thank you for all your hard work to keep our city safe and healthy.
Thank you very much.
Mark Maville?
Mark Maville, Council. It's great that there is a council for this exact purpose. Hi, Dan. I have a mouthful here. There's like 20 items, my top 20 that I left for James earlier today to peruse and be a little bit preemptive. I see a lot more than most that's going on out there. I can rattle it off, you can write it down, you can do something about it. I'm not here to say be a vigilante or think that I can control or do things that you probably can, that I can't. That's what the commission, I think, is for. That's the purpose. I'll go over this real quick, what I got. Oh, 212, okay, I'll get this out. The creek is contaminated, once again. There is a lot of trash behind the Jolly Giant. Cameras do need to go into the parks, all of the parks. You need to power wash the benches. That element was not removed. You just removed the benches. Holy crap, that didn't make any sense at all. There is a lot of hidden trash in the city. There should be an established curfew for the cantinas, streets, and the parks, which we already have of 6:30. Thanks to the sheriff, they have been enforcing that. Great job on that. Much more improved in the last month or so due to Captain Watts and their effort. We need to pull some of these liquor license and dance permits and limit them from Sago, First Street Bar, Roxy, Mr. Peabody's, which the guy is still drinking and driving, so he got it pulled before, pull it again. It's a low bottom place anyway, and there's a lot of activity that's irresponsible going on there around that area. 7-Eleven, no alcohol sales after 10. Kids under the 15 should have a curfew of 9 p.m., no longer wandering around and getting overserved by these cantinas, throwing up out in the street, and that's what has been happening, by the way. And anybody 11 or older should have a bike license. Anybody younger, no, not on the e-bikes the way they ride. There should be a walk, which they do quite a bit, with the mayor, the sheriff, parks, streets, alleys, and beaches. Once a week, maybe once a month. I don't know which would be better. These guys are really busy. We do need to free up the resources for more sheriffs, more equipment, whatever they need to help them keep this city that's been deemed the most, I don't know, the best beach community. Let's not pay attention to that. Beach community in the state, and we want to keep it that way. And everybody together, like a village, can do that. Guide dogs only in the restaurants and coffee shops. Come on, let's get real on that. That's a public health situation. Public intoxication, which is open, I see it all the time. That's got to be rectified.
Mark, everything that you gave me is on the list here you gave
Yes,
me, right?
so you want me to stop? Because
Yeah.
you guys got things to do here, and I got a 4:30 pickup here. But anyway, if you want to discuss that amongst yourselves, I do have the boots on the ground from the sheriff, which, we really appreciate, but we need more support in that area to keep the containment of this
Thank you.
city, which is a
Thank you,
great
Mark.
city. Thanks.
Thank you.
That's it. Thanks.
So I'm going to recommend, Commissioner Taylor, you want to walk us through the document that you have?
Yeah. So over the last few weeks, Commissioners Dominguez and Andrade and myself, we met to kind of go over the notes that we had and some of the items that we had previously had discussed amongst one another and during some of our meetings. So the long story short, going through our work plan and the segments of the work plan that pertain to the Resource Readiness Ad Hoc Committee, we looked at each of the work plan items and discussed ways that we could impact, influence, share this information for it to go into the final report. With that being said, the perspective that we took was all we can do is make the recommendations. Who executes it, that's out of our hands. So with that being said, I guess I'll get us started. Do you want me to go through each item, or
I think I don't.
can?
I'd like you to take into consideration the feedback we got from City Council,
Yeah.
and maybe highlight actions that you feel you would like our commission
Yeah.
to
Well,
engage in actions and things that we might do together.
Yeah. Okay.
So
well, with that being
what
said,
would
some of
be the
these
top ones
things, especially from a law enforcement fire, position, there's nothing that we can do. I'm not getting out on the streets and doing some of the things that need to be done. That's not going to happen. But it's, some of the things that can get done are things that are already in place for the most part. It just needs to be an intentional effort to really be consistent about it, such as number one, cross-promoting the San Diego Sheriff's social media content. There's great content that the Sheriff's Department puts out on a regular basis. And being able to have the ability with the city's already existing social media platform, all it is a few mouse clicks to be able to take some of the content that the Sheriff's Department's already putting out and replicating it over on the city's website. Some of the goals that would be achieved with that are increasing outreach and increasing public awareness of some of the tools and things that are out there for them. One of the big ones that I have, and it's in line with line items or job numbers 2, 4, and 9, it's coming up with a comprehensive communications and media strategy. Encinitas is a community that has a lot of generations of residents, and people receive their information in a myriad of ways. However, the one thing that remains consistent is it's inconsistent in how to find information about what's happening with the city. The My Encinitas app is cool, but there are still gaps in how to find things. Kind of going through it over the last couple days to kind of make sure that I'm on the right page when I was starting to put this together. There were clear gaps there. It's a great effort, but it could be better. Additionally,
So if I
just
could-
leverage.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but if I could write that, would you be open to taking in her recommendation, right, working together? Are you suggesting us working together as a commission to help show the council what a comprehensive, like what the gaps are and what a comprehensive media strategy might look like? I'm just trying to frame it into something that we would do together like as was proposed,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that would be a clever twist that I think what's being asked to us. And so just to kind of move to that in an attempt, because I think I did ask, like, prioritize. This is probably, I'm just going to go out there like a top priority for that. For your group?
It's
Or is it just
it's
one of
something
many?
that it's
one
this
of
is
many?
this is a draft. This is
Yeah.
not a finished copy, so it can get racked
Yeah.
and stacked however people want to rack and stack it.
I want to see if I can get a win here right now, just off the top. So, is there discussion amongst the commission about sort of that proposal where we might take on that as a group to identify what a comprehensive media strategy might look like?
Well, I just think that, we can take like pieces of and ideas of things that, are attainable and accomplishable and, press forward with that. And I think, I've tried to, I think people are probably tired of hearing me talk about trying to meld some of the information that the sheriff puts out into the city website with the view of increasing communication and public safety awareness in the city. And I know the captain's been working on that. So, if we get something like that accomplished, it's something concrete, that I think would make a difference. And then, move on to something else after that. Maybe, we're not here to revamp the My Encinitas,
Yeah.
site or whatever, but there's maybe certain easy things that can happen. So that I considered one of them, and I don't know if the if Captain has done anything or knows what where that is.
Well, and then, so I think just to make sure I get what you're saying, I think you're in agreement. I think what you're saying is, as a group, you've seen what's done. There's some gaps, and we might be able to put together in short order, like identify what those gaps are for city council.
Yeah, and I don't think it has to be anything like monumental, like redoing the My Encinitas app, but maybe just start small and then just pick out one or two or three things
Right.
that we could do. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm
And
just,
in the way of communication, because, I think that's a huge piece of the puzzle when we're talking about what we're trying to accomplish here in terms of making the city safer, and communicating with the public is huge.
Yeah.
right.
I think ultimately the goal should be to remove as many barriers as possible towards getting information out. Talking with people throughout the community on a regular basis, people have a wide range of viewpoints on how they receive information or the lack of information. So, however that needs to get resolved, I'm down to support it to an extent. I'm not a city staff employee. So, based on what I thought this was going to be, is we make the recommendations, and whatever the council wants to do with it, they deploy the work how they see fit. But that being said, the other 2 points, the two main points that I'd like to hit on is, and I can definitely help with this because we have a rough draft of it already, an emergency reference card. Kind of going through the My Encinitas app again, it's extremely tedious and painful to kind of go through there and find emergency information, emergency numbers or contact information. Going through the website, it's also tedious to find. So creating something that's easy, accessible, bilingual, that people can use as a quick reference in the event that they're out down at one of the cantinas and they see something going sideways. Instead of having to scroll through a million things, they can, quickly have these numbers that are accessible to them. Also, recognizing that resources are, should be valued. Some kind of education platform or a matrix on this card to let people know when they should call 911 versus calling the non-emergency hotline or the non-emergency number, because not all instances require 911 support. And the other thing that I'd like to talk about is making public health and safety, specifically sheriff's crime data and fire data, easily accessible. That's one of the main points of misinformation that we see around here. You know, probably, I know every time I've come to council meetings, we've heard about how crime is rampant in Encinitas, but when you look at the data, the numbers don't support that. So having that information in an easy to find, easy to access place for any resident to be able to go and look at it would be an ideal scenario. I know where to go look for it, but you know, the common person in Encinitas may not. And I think that's one of those things that should be very easy to do, and a situation that, you know, everyone should be able to get behind. Commissioners Andrade, Dominguez, are there any other things that I may have left out?
About that one point
Or about
specifically,
any point.
or all of it? I mean,
You guys are on the team too.
Well, no, definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as like regarding, I think, you know, taking, you know, what her recommendations are, and my understanding is this is where we get to process and kind of pare down altogether, because we can't do that. So just making sure that we're all kind of on the same page. But I think, you know, having some kind of emergency reference / resource thing, I know we talked about a newsletter, and also we all have limited time. However, doing something where there's like a public health and safety tab or something like that, where it's a quarterly thing. For example, in the summer you have, you know, some fire prevention stuff, as well as don't lock your kids in the car, and also here are some resources like that are pertinent to that, you know, something, you know, that's kind of not something real long, in addition to, you know, of course, you know, having like the emergency, you know, reference sheet. I mean, as far as something like that, I think that's a very tangible thing for us to do, and I think it would help, you know, move this in the right direction, as well as, you know, make it easier for residents to actually look at. As far as some of the other, you know, things that we had discussed, as far as like resource readiness, I want to check in with the chief and the captain over there, just to make sure that, you know, as far as this next year, resource-wise, you know, what needs may be that we could recommend as well. And then I definitely want to touch on fire stations that don't have women's restroom and shower facilities. I know that we don't have a woman firefighter yet, but in the case that that happens, we need to have one. Plus, I think that's a recommendation that we need to start working on, because that's going to be something that is, you know, technically it's a public building. We're violating federal law and California Code of Regulations. So want to make sure that that starts to, we get that infrastructure prepared.
And, you know, I'd say the final thing that I'd like to touch on is with an eye towards 2025. I think it would be a great idea for the first meeting of this organization or this group would be to have the city council come in and express their priorities for, you know, public health and safety. To kind of understand what's a priority for them would really help make this work plan, or the development of the work plan, a little bit more coherent, cohesive, and in line with what they are thinking.
Yeah.
You know, that way it's more goal-oriented, focused, and something tangible. Because right now it feels like we're just kind of shooting into the wind, hoping to hit something. And that, over the last year, has been extremely frustrating, you know, because,
All right.
you know, I don't know exactly what we're doing.
I'm just going to, I think it's a great idea and it's important, but I'm just going to remind us that we're going to try to stay on the 2024 and things we're going to deliver, rather than what we want the 2025 to look like for the day's discussion. So of the three things we talked about here, which was the communications media strategy, the emergency reference card, the public health and safety metrics, and then additionally, the things, Commissioner Andrade, but I will highlight the first three. The way they're currently written is that we suggest the city develop. So I think the guidance that we received from the city planner was things that we might take on as a commission to do. That gets submitted along with our work plan, and the council comes back with, yes, we want you to do that, or no, we don't want you to do that. I think one that sits pretty well, even in your discussion, which was the emergency reference card, right? That would pretty easily, if we would have I'm going to make the recommendation and see if you guys are aligned with that, which would be have the writing as such as we suggest that the commission develop an easily accessible emergency card for the community, and then we submit it to the council for their approval. Am I out
Chair
here
Morton.
alone on this?
Chair Morton, just one other thing. Great discussions. Just make sure when you look at your work plan
Yeah.
that whatever that recommendation is, which item does it go with the work plan?
Right.
So remember, because you folks developed a work plan, so it's perfect. So for here, if you look at number 2, develop recommendations for communications, including launching a city quarterly newsletter, delivering valuable updates and resources on public safety.
Yeah.
So for instance, that emergency card, where would that fall? So you guys are in the right direction. Just make sure that whatever, either that recommendation or what you want to do does match one of these.
Thank you.
And that's where you're headed. A lot of these do that. Just make sure which work plan item it goes into, just to make sure that we're good.
Okay. Thank you. Am I out here on my own, commissioners, trying to switch the language?
No, I think that's fine for us to make that recommendation and with the work plan, give a developed suggested reference card.
Because essentially I'm asking, like, as a group, are we committed to doing that as a group?
We would present it with this year's work plan, is my understanding. I mean,
Could we?
if we are discussing the
Yeah.
work plan that we're presenting and you're saying that we are going to say that we're going to create that,
It'd be a great deliverable. Yep.
then I think Marlon, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's already a lot of that work that's already been done that could be provided, correct? For the emergency reference card.
Yes.
And then for public health and safety metrics, to Marlon's point, I think there's some of us that know where to get this information. It could fall, I would think, under streamline and optimize resources and tools for effective public measures, perhaps include information. So maybe under ad hoc committee 4. But I don't think that's something that we are going to provide because it's constantly changing information. So our recommendation should be, how often are they publicizing that information? Is it monthly? Is it quarterly?
I think we have identified things that we think are gaps that we could report out to them. Is that, or am I off?
My understanding is
Or
the way
ways to
this
improve.
reads is that we would want to actually have somewhere that it's easily accessible to see break-ins, theft, assault, those sorts of things, so that people can access that and potentially feel less anxious about the community they're living in when they see the actual data. So how I'm reading this is that the recommendation would be that the city council works with staff to create a space on the website that would have updated information. And I would say quarterly, I think makes sense. So it's not no one is tasked with doing that monthly.
Or you just create live links on the SharePoint, on the city's webpage that are linked to things like Argus or whatever crime stats the sheriff's department uses, whatever metrics the fire department uses. And as those links are updated on the back end, they're also going to be updated in real time. So it's almost a one-shot, one-kill type situation. So it's not a heavy lift, but I think the things that are gained on the front end are significantly, more valuable than, worrying about how the sausage is going to get made.
So I'm highlighting in that section where we recommend that city staff collaborate with public health and safety agencies to create an easily accessible, centralized solution for residents to quickly and accurately current. So that whole verbiage is actually the recommendation there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I feel like we should vote on at least the things we've talked about here, unless there's more discussion about either the emergency reference card or this recommendation about having the solution for the residents to quickly access somewhere on the webpage or the My Encinitas app. Without hearing any other discussion points, could I get a recommendation for the emergency reference card and a vote? A second?
Second.
I need some verbiage for the city staff for the first and then a second afterwards.
I make a recommendation to add the emergency reference card under recommendation number 2 to the work plan for 2024.
And this will be a card developed by the commission and will accompany with the memo to council.
Correct.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a second. When we're ready, we'll go to a vote. Excellent.
Let the record show motion passes with Commissioner Sales absent and Commissioner Vaughn abstaining.
And then next, I'll open up for a motion on the second idea that we've talked about here, underneath public health and safety metrics.
Yes, public health and safety metrics. Let me go back and look at that.
Starting
again.
with, we recommend that the city staff collaborate.
Yeah.
Is this forward or backwards?
This is one of the hopeful things that comes out of the 2024 work plan, the homework.
So the reason I'm asking is
I think it's
because
point number
if we're
2.
talking forward-looking, what metrics do we think we need to be tracking? I'd like to add some homelessness stats that we're tracking. I think that this commission, forward-looking, could do a really good public service in helping to make sure that those metrics are regularly updated. And when we have those measurables, we're in a much better place to manage the resources and situation. So I would be very supportive of systematically collecting metrics and ourselves helping to publicize those and make those reporting templates or whatever valuable. But I'm not sure that we have those metrics for 2024.
I think if I'm understanding correctly, then maybe that would be a recommendation that comes out of the homeless ad hoc committee to start tracking data and metrics, because for this specific ad hoc committee where Marlon is presenting right now from their team, my understanding is the recommendation is to simply publicize existing data that's currently being tracked by police and fire. But I'm in agreement with you that
yeah.
if it were to come from the homeless ad hoc committee to ask the city, make a recommendation that the city starts collecting that information and aggregating it and sharing it, I would be fully supportive of that. I'm just wondering, it's probably easier to separate the two because this is sharing information that already exists versus a recommendation to start collecting new information.
Well, then the information regarding the homeless point in time count, it's already there as well. You know, it's,
Is that what you're referring to, Dan?
No. This year, we've learned through our task force that the city is entering into the HMIS database and going to be having access to that. And the county no longer has an MOU with the cities because the city is moving towards using the HMIS data for some of these aggregate numbers. The sheriff's department tracks the interactions that they have with individuals experiencing homelessness. Many of the nonprofits and volunteer organizations such as St. Andrews track these numbers on a by name basis. Coming up with ways where we can aggregate this information, who's newly homeless this month or quarter, who's been placed into temporary housing, what are the outcomes of the stuff at folks that go into BCNC. You know, getting some of those aggregated data together is really where I am at.
no, I think it makes perfect sense. You know, at the end of the day, you know, if we're going to have something that is like a dashboard or something, you know, this is the time to get all of those recommendations or the wish list in of, you know, what would it look like and, you know, what would all be on there.
And in an interest to do it stepwise, you know, as I read this recommendation, it's, you know, create an easily accessible centralized solution, right? So, you know, we're asking to define the place that the data can be. And then there's also the step of defining what data is in it, right, as well. So I think that goes part and parcel. And there's even an attempt, I think, to bring in the concerns about making sure and cross-promoting the media content that's already available, right? We're talking about creating a space where the citizens can like already see some content that's already there as well. So there's that chance. And I, as a member of the task force, I think that's absolutely wonderful. Like we're getting new data all the time, and it would be great be transparent so that the citizens could see it.
No, and you know, and the beauty of this, all of this stuff is it's not reinventing the wheel. We're not asking for anything new to be created. All the information, all the stuff is there. It's just putting it in some place that's easy for people to find instead of having to go through 5 websites and 38 mouse clicks to find that data.
So would it make sense to make the recommendation to read, we recommend that city staff collaborate with public health and safety agencies to create an easily accessible centralized solution for residents to quickly access accurate and current crime, fire, and homelessness metrics?
I second.
And then that would encompass.
For the second, is there any discussion? Just because it was pretty quick and it was good. Okay.
Does that encompass what you're thinking, Dan? I think so. Okay. And then I would, I'm trying to think of where that would fall under the work plan, because my understanding is we should pair it with a number.
Yeah,
I think
like,
number 2.
Yeah. Part of 2,
Okay.
a little bit of 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Chair Morton.
I'm thinking, but I'm happy to think while you talk.
You know, just a couple things. I know several meetings back, we had talked about what resources are on the website. So we obviously do have a whole section on homeless resources, but I also wanted to let Captain Watts talk because I'm not sure how many commissioners have went on to see, you know, what we have and maybe what we're lacking. So I just want to make sure everyone's aware that there is a certain amount of data that we do have. There could be some gaps, but we do have some data.
That's kind of in line with what I'm thinking. So Captain Watts, would you like to speak?
Yes, thank you. So I think we're not worried about what we already have. It's how long it takes you to get there. Is that?
Yeah,
what
you
we're
know,
looking at?
it's ultimately what I'm looking for is a solution to where if I'm Joe Citizen and I'm curious about crime data, I can go to the Encinitas website, click a tab, and then all of the data, you know, be it crime, fire, homelessness, is there. You know, if there's a way, you know, I'm confident that there's a way that all of that could be aggregated to one location and, you know, not be disturbed from its source location.
Right, because in order to get to that information, I think we go through the government, departments, public safety, and then law enforcement, and we're trying to simplify that
Yeah.
process. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm
So-
not recommending or asking for anything new. No
Yeah.
new data or no information, just a clean way for people to access that information.
Is there a way that with this recommendation, we could provide some description of the way that it could be improved? Right, rather than just sort of launching it over to them saying, hey.
Yeah, we could do
fix
whatever we
that.
want. This is just a draft.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like I'm asking if like the commission is aligned with doing that, so that the city staff is left with a goal or guidepost that we see for them to kind of go. So that would be my only recommendation is that with this as well, we present sort of what we feel as the opportunities to create the transparency.
Yeah,
along with
you know,
that.
I can definitely
look
create like a project plan type deal that would, you know, really make it easier.
Yeah, and not to put it all on you, but if you want to spearhead it and then circulate, that would be great.
Yeah.
Before the next meeting, and then we could look at what that looks like. So I think we have a second, if there's no more discussion.
Yeah, just real quick on
Yeah.
I think that's a great idea because I'm looking at the screen right now. I would have never thought to go to government departments, development services, and then policy planning and housing to find homeless resources. And I am pretty involved in
Yeah,
the
it's-
community. And so
pretty
I
absurd.
think we can make a recommendation of, you know, I would say under community and then just public safety. And then that's where all the data lies there. So it's pretty simplified. And I trust it makes sense where it's at. I just know I would struggle finding that. And if I was someone that was unhoused and likely had less resources to do this searching, I think that's really challenging to get to. So I think it's beneficial for us to make some recommendations of where we can move things around.
Okay.
So
and-
with that, do you want me to
I-
modify the?
Well, I was going to ask to summarize, but
Is this modifying the previous motion? Because, okay.
I think it's great that if you would just identify where you think the motion is right now, and then we'll
Just
see
a
if we
quick
need to
question
go.
on,
Sure.
this is all going towards the work plan, right?
Correct.
Jennifer, maybe you can help me. Do they need to motion each time, or since they're just adding it to what should be the work plan, they just need a council or a commission consensus? Since this is a working document, correct?
Yeah, so what you
Excellent.
can do is you can do that at the end, Chair Morton. You can talk about this and you can put them in each category, and then you can vote on it all at once, so you don't have to. So you have consensus about the whole work plan is fine as well. I mean, you can do item
Yeah.
by item.
Yes.
Yeah.
Or you can do like if you're looking and you see you have consensus, and then you can actually do a full motion vote at the end for everything in the work plan.
All right. Give me head nods if you guys are like not like this. If you like, I think it's crazy. I think that'll move it forward. But before I get the consensus, like I want to ask Commissioner Vaughn, like we're talking about transparency across a lot of metrics that are assessment. it's not directly tied to what you've been asking for, which is, additional content coming. But we're talking about making a place that's more readily seen by the public, which I think is at essence similar to what you're asking for, right, and available.
Commissioner Bump, but you're talking to me. That's okay. That's okay. I know where you're, I know. No,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think maybe I asked Captain Watts to, speak on this.
Right.
And maybe he can kind of clarify where we might be at with exactly what, I've been trying to get accomplished, yeah.
Right. So I know that the ask was having access to sheriff's social media. It seems easy, but there's more to it than just handing over access. We're not the account administrator. The sheriff's has a unit that actually puts that and distributes that out from headquarters. So what we have asked, because it's a great idea, and it is a way for us to bridge that gap and reach our communities outside of the sheriff's social media, because not everybody is on our social media. So what we're asking from our department is if they could have a separate folder where we would be able to access that content and then be able to share it with the city. So that is where we are in the works of trying to be able to access the content that goes out on social media through the department so that we could access it and share it with the city outside of the social media platform.
Okay, so that is something that's already in progress.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we came up with the idea and we're not doing the work, but it's something that I think, we should make a recommendation that continue forward and to do whatever we can to make that happen. So right on, it's the very first paragraph
Right.
in the document.
Right.
So, but I mean, that's something that we can say, hey, because I think this is going to happen, right? I mean, they haven't said no. They haven't said no, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think it's something that's going to be possible.
Okay.
And then we will work with the city to bridge that gap too.
Right. So that would be a win, right? Something we could say, okay, we're going to do this, and we want to encourage the city council to continue forward with that project.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just recommend that we keep the language. If you want to read what you currently have as the language around, we recommend the city staff collaborate with public health and safety agencies to create an easily accessible, centralized solution for residents to quickly assess accurate and current crime, fire, and homelessness metrics. Is that correct?
I think that's correct about what we are talking about,
Yes.
and I think.
It's completely different than what
Okay,
he was
got
talking
it.
about.
Okay, I
Yep,
was like,
it's completely
they just-
different. Yep.
Yep.
Okay, so those are the two items there.
And do you think that the first paragraph gets our point across and is in the right format to be able to make a recommendation?
How big is your paragraph? Where does it go down to?
What if we just said, we recommend that the city enhances its efforts to cross-promote the
Say it out
content
loud.
produced by the sheriff?
Sorry. Just let me know. Where is it?
I mean, it's the first
top of the
paragraph,
page,
but
it's
I'm
the
making
first
the
paragraph, yeah.
recommendation.
Stop before maximizing outreach, or just that first, all the way down?
I think I think
Okay,
what you're
thank
saying
you.
exactly
So
what
we
need.
recommend that the city enhances its efforts to cross-promote the content produced by the sheriff department.
Excellent. Okay. And then I think it's worth discussing about a recommendation for the increase the number of female firefighters.
Chair Morton?
Yes.
If I can just, since Commissioner Woods Drake, I'm not sure if you folks know, we do, as far as the website goes, we do always have the little hourglass that, or not the little magnifying glass that is our search bar. So anytime if you put in keywords. But I also wanted to, I'm not sure if you folks have seen, but if you look at the lower right-hand screen, you see Sunny. Sunny is our new chatbot. So in Sunny, you can put in various questions that you may have about the city, where to find anything on the city, and it pulls from all the information on the website. So if you were to put in, I'd like to see some homeless resources, it will actually then pull up the link and it takes you, and then you click on that and it takes you right to the website. So not only do we have the search tool, which we've had forever, we have also went ahead and we have Sunny the chatbot. See, so that's what Lois asked. And then right there, instead of having to click 3 different clicks, you click on the link. So I wasn't sure if you folks knew that we launched Sunny. Great job by our IT department. But that is another way to quickly find resources through keywords and asking questions that people can use. So that is new on our website.
Does Sunny have crime stats?
If you asked, Sunny will point you to where the information is on the website. All of the information in which Sunny has is only on the website. So it does not pull from other government websites, but if it's on ours, it'll pull it up.
Okay, that looks great. That's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Well, it would be a great idea to use the opportunity to promote
Sunny.
Sunny on the the city's platforms.
So, I mean, to that end, just spitballing here is a perhaps better recommendation of this. I mean, this is weird, but like the beginning of our meeting, we do a 10-minute Sunny chat on anything that's going on for the public so they can see the data. Or, I mean, like, I think what I'm hearing from the city is that they've had tools, there are tools to make it more transparent, and maybe the opportunity is actually for us to communicate the tools that's there and existing better. Using what's there.
I think I need to play around with Sunny some more before I can decide if that provides access to the metrics that we're actually discussing wanting, and then we can perhaps revisit of what's missing.
Yeah, and I'm also.
Thank you for sharing that. That's great for people
I'm also.
like me, that it's super user-friendly now.
I'm not particularly uncomfortable with presenting city council a list of recommendations, and it's a document, it's a word, and if they ignore what we have, they ignore what we have, but we're certainly communicating ideas. I also opened the idea that communicating things that we're working together at as a commission is important, that we're moving to, and I don't know that we're actually there yet, right? So I think a lot of some of our initiatives that we come as individuals and that we're really passionate about and we care about, they're important. And there are avenues available already for individual concerns, which are kind of appropriate. But I also don't want to minimize the number of recommendations. So along those lines, we were talking about the female firefighters. Is there a particular wordage, Commissioner Andrade, that you would be comfortable with as a recommendation to the council?
As far as,
A recommendation that you might add?
I mean, I think, again, and the chief and I have discussed extensively, kind of where there may be some barriers, as well as, but I mean, I think even just to start with, just the actual infrastructure, I think is important. And as far as, I mean, I think what he was saying as far as, identifying and removing some barriers that may be existing. For example, the physical agility test that they're currently using is not one that's recommended by the state. That being said, the state one a lot of times hasn't prepped our firefighters well enough. So maybe, possibly a solution of, having, once they pass the state one, then they can, do something that's specific to Encinitas and their evolutions. So, I mean, it gets a little bit more convoluted, but I think just identifying what those barriers are as to why they haven't been able to have a woman firefighter. And again, I think if we're going to be recommending stuff this is what we need to accomplish this year, I think if I were to pick one, it would be, let's get our stations up and ready, and then, continue the conversations that we've already started to try to systematically, look at what those barriers are that has, inhibited women from getting hired here.
Can I make a recommendation of how that might read?
Yes.
Okay, so what if it is creating opportunities for women to join the fire services by removing barriers to recruitment, such as revising strength and agility test and ensuring inclusive facilities?
Yes, I think that's great. I think also the academy portion, I think, is an important one as well. But I think that's a great start.
Yeah.
Start with
I
starts.
take it a little bit further. If you look at under line item number 1, under increase the number of firefighters, set the aspirational goal. I believe by setting that aspirational goal, all of the other things that fall under there would then become, you'd have to do those things for that goal to become a reality. So right now there are 0 female firefighters on the force. Set the aspirational goal to establish clear, measurable goals to increase gender and racial representation within Encinitas Fire and Marine Services. That's the goal. How many?
I just want to highlight, we need to tie this to a particular item in the work plan. So
I think it's
and so
going
let's
to be like number 9.
Okay.
As one of the, or number 10 maybe, identify emerging opportunities.
Love it. Thank you.
But I say that, set the aspirational goal, because if this is our goal, then you're going to have to do all of the other things. You're going to have to retrofit fire stations. You're going to have to study and understand what are some of the barriers within the training and the academy that's preventing women from getting on board. You're going to have to come up with outreach programs and initiatives to let women know that, hey, we're looking for you. So I think setting that aspirational goal as the goal, and then everything else just kind of falls under it, instead of convoluting it and putting all these other things in the goal, which gives us an easy excuse as to say why we can't accomplish the goal, instead of, this is our aspirational goal, and these are the things that we have to do to make this thing a reality.
I think as far as a percentage, I think 3% is a great goal to have.
I'm not smart at math. What's 3% of 51?
3% of 51
Is that like 2?
Let's see.
is 50.
But are we establishing the
10%
goals,
is-
or are we just
10%
making
is
a
5,
recommendation?
so
I don't think
3%.
we.
I would just
It's
set
about
the
2 people.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, 2 people is better than none.
Yeah,
You know
I
what I
wouldn't
mean?
say
And
what-
It wasn't minimizing.
And
I was
well,
just
no,
saying
but
that's what the number
2%
Yeah.
is like, 4% is nationwide,
yeah.
right? So we're not talking about, so I think 3% isn't a terrible, goal to have, set. That being said, I also have extensive experience in helping to get facilities. I did it in my own department. We're now up to 70%. I can help, like you were saying. I don't want to just feel like you guys have more work to do. We want to help to, move this forward in the right direction.
And I'll just highlight, right, that we're making a recommendation, we're putting it in front of City Council, they're going to have to make a decision. As an individual, you're welcome to attend, the discussion,
So what if
it
it
kind of
reads
gets back to that thing of like
this, creating opportunity, because this also, we talk about gender and racial representation, so perhaps it reads, creating opportunities to diversify the Encinitas Fire and Marine Services by setting aspirational goals and removing barriers to recruitment by working with experts in fire leadership. That opens the door to working with someone like yourself, working with the chief. And it's not limiting it to, because, Do you have an idea of how many people of color work for Encinitas Fire or Marine Safety? I don't think this is limited to just women. I think it's a diversity issue, which is also reflected in our citywide. But I do think it is a public safety matter in that people do benefit from seeing themselves represented or hearing their own language spoken when
I would
those
be
that are-
comfortable with that. I just want to add, I think we have an expert on the panel. She's recommended the 2%, and so I think I would fall in line with,
I'm hesitant to
letting
just
them know.
throw an arbitrary 2% number out there myself without actually doing research on it. 2% of 53 is actually, or 52 is a large amount versus having Lauren work with the chief and the city council and other experts to figure out what makes sense as an actual attainable goal for
I can tell
a
you,
small
LA City
department.
did 5%, and they got to 3.5%, and then it started falling down.
Yeah, that's
LA County is 2%. Like, we're not, it's a problem, and however, it's also a job that women do very well at. So it's about looking at what the barriers are. If we're going to talk about barriers, it's the physical agility test. It is the academy, where they're specifically the East County Academy that they're attending right now. They do not put out a lot of women firefighters. We saw the statistics. And also, again, the facilities. I think if we're going to recommend that, we have to go specifically after what those barriers are, and then
Yeah, absolutely.
figure out-
I'm just saying maybe not give a percent number until.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, that's
I'm
why
fine
I'm
with that.
saying work with experts like yourself that know these sorts of things and what needs to be done. And also if we're including it to diversify and not just limit it to women, and we're also talking about fire and marine services, I'm also hesitant to put a number to that because obviously in marine services, I do believe we have a large number of women. So
Correct.
I think keeping it open-ended allows for yourself and those working on this to really dig into what that should look like, and then maybe the council will come up with a percentage based on that.
Okay.
But I'm absolutely for stating removing barriers to recruitment by working with experts and fire leadership, because I think you know better than anyone, and the chief would know as well. It's like, how do we remove these barriers?
I think, too, we have the chief here. How does he feel about it, and how might we craft a recommendation that makes sense, addressing this issue?
Yeah, I think, to go on record, me as the fire chief is very supportive of being all-inclusive. We have reached out to Commissioner Andrade about some of those barriers, and we're working on some of them, one being the physical agility test that we talked about. Us not having our own training facility does kind of hinder us running our own fire academy, and then also not having the personnel that is able to do all of that training and sign people off. So we're working towards that goal right now with putting people through training and having them certified to be those skills instructors and the check off for the skills for the state level so that we can run our own fire academy in the future. We're also looking at ways to, one thing we did is we dropped the requirement of a firefighter 1 so that we can send them to our own academy, which opened it up to just paramedics. You don't have to have a paramedic license and a fire academy now. So, we ended up going from 20 applications to 120 applications, and then also had 2 females candidates that applied. So I think we're doing the right steps. There's obviously more to be taken. Infrastructure-wise, we could talk about that. We have creative ideas for that. Talking to Commissioner Andrade, she's led the Orange County Fire Authority in those kind of initiatives. So we're taking some of that back to our department. So I think we're on the right track. But I think what Commissioner Woods Drake said, I think that's a good way to phrase it, with just removing barriers, because that's what we're always looking to do.
Do you want me to repeat how
That'd
I
be
said it?
great.
Yeah. So,
Yep,
and
thank you.
correct me if I'm wrong, Lauren. And creating opportunities to diversify the Encinitas Fire and Marine Services by creating aspirational goals and removing barriers to recruitment by working with experts in fire leadership.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second that.
Well, we're not voting, we're just
yeah.
like not nodding.
Thumbs up, is
Just
that
kidding.
good for everyone?
Are there any nods? Are there any nods? All right. Okay, so it's in good shape. I feel like we've triaged this. We're on track to continue to talk about things. Commissioner Wood Drake, is there particular things? I have one of your things that I think is a great idea, so.
For the mental health ad hoc, are you referring to? I think for me, and Robin would obviously have to chime in on what her priority is. For me, I think a priority would be hosting a mental health month event that would be specific around addiction, mental health resources, similar to, I did attend the wellness. I think it was like a wellness event at the Encinitas Community Center a few months back that had people from different wellness facilities and that do work in that. So my recommendation would be for the council to do more to recognize Mental Health Month and launch an annual mental health awareness kind of event.
My notes show that May is Mental Health Month,
Correct.
and so we'd like to probably suggest having a fair of some kind.
Yeah, and obviously in 2025, it might not be super extravagant. It doesn't give much time to plan if we're just giving these, but I think starting to build something that can happen annually will be really good to reduce stigma as well as increase access to resources.
So actually, I'm wondering though, is this just something that gets added to the 2025 work plan, or is it a recommendation, or is that the both, right?
I would put it as a recommendation that they
Perfect.
begin doing it in 2025, and I'd be happy to work with them, as I'm sure you would, on, how we can make that a success.
Yeah.
And go
Could I
from
ask
there.
the city council, is there a precedent where citizens actually help run fairs like that, or are we just now advocating for something for you guys to have another work weekend?
I'm so glad you asked that question, Chair Morton. That is actually how Ciclovia started. It was actually an idea from the Environmental Commission. We had several environmental commissioners work with city staff. But yeah, that would be, Commissioner Woods Drake is right, it would need to be a recommendation, because what this means is it's staff time and money. So we do go into the budgeting process in February. So if you were to make that recommendation, and I think the recommendation, it would be nice to say that the Public Health and Safety Commissioners would work with staff to put that on, because again, that's what the Environmental Commission did with Ciclovia, and that continued to be an event, and it continues to grow, and it's happening year after year. So that would be the right direction for that, because City Council would need to put resources towards that, which would be staff time and money for that event, depending on where it's held.
Okay. So my takeaway is that it would be a combined citizen and staff effort to pull the thing off. All right. So if we go forward with the recommendation, commissioners, we're signing on to help out with this thing in May, right? There's a commitment that, and I'm not hearing and seeing any no's. And that's exactly the idea that I was really excited about as well. Anything, not Commissioner Dominguez, Commissioner Vaughn, that stands out from our recommendations from mental health beyond just having some transparency of the metrics that the city is using?
Mental health or homelessness?
Let's start with mental health. Homelessness, that's us. We're not mental health.
So I think it would be hard to wordsmith something here on the fly.
Okay.
But I think we can go take that offline and before the next agenda for the next meeting, have something written up and ready for the commission to review.
Okay, I'm perusing recommendations that came out previously from us. We had a recommendation in August, find solutions and fund efforts to address affordable housing so that people experiencing homelessness are not being moved around from one center to another. Not a getcha.
So homelessness is a housing problem, and I've been sitting on this affordable housing task force for the last couple months. And so the city is very well aware of the challenges. I do think that a recommendation that comes out of this should focus on housing opportunities that maybe are available to the city.
So we, as our commission, will come up with those and then have them attached to the attached to the memo that we're going to send?
Yeah, I think,
You and I could do that?
I guess it's a question of format for me, right? But we're supposed to do a report on
We're going to be doing a memo, but yeah,
outcomes and recommendations, right?
of recommendations, yep.
So not outcomes? Not what we did? Just recommendations?
No, we can define what we did, how we came to the conclusion for the recommendation. I mean, yeah.
And are we writing
Like
this,
a
or staff
rational-
writing that, or are we doing this by
Us.
dictating to
We're writing it.
non-votes?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I
We're
think
writing it.
that I think the task should be to draft it and come back for review, right?
Well,
Okay.
I think I'll be wordsmithing. I have a format of a memo, and I'll be happy to take on the task of taking the notes that we've gotten today, having the recommendations. Part of the memo will sort of be the justification around why we're making the recommendation, provide a little color on why we're doing the recommendation that we're doing, and I think that's the same, hopefully, what you mean by outcomes.
I think, if I may, what
Yeah.
would probably be helpful, Dan, if you can, this is extremely extensive, thank you, Marlon and team, but this was really helpful to work through, to whittle down for the work plan what we're going to present, and I totally hear you on not just throwing something out there now, but maybe we do have a meeting in November, correct? Bringing something similar of the recommendations remaining for the ad hoc, because I think we're good with resource readiness. Robin might have one more for mental health, and that's my main one. And then we would just need the homeless ad hoc, and that would be a full work plan to present. So if it's possible to bring that forward at the next meeting, then we can dig into that and whittle it down as we did here.
Certainly on that, a minor clarification, we have a room reserved if we decide to have a meeting in November. We still have to vote today to have the meeting to have, but yes, there's space available. This certainly takes care of the work plan for the ad hoc committees. I have some minor things I would add. So my takeaway, Dan, is just you and I will come together with a more formal when we meet again and some recommendations of what we'd like to have, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'd also, I don't know when the right time is, but for the commission as a whole, I think a recommendation for next year is a more frequent meeting schedule, right?
Yeah, that's the entire commission that's spoken to me, and that's good. We do have an action that we can come to, which is number 8, Dan, which is support, review, and make possible recommendations to the city homeless action plan and reduce homelessness. So that's a place we can talk about for that. And then we can just look to ideas to promote education, prevention, and accessible resources, which I think some of the transparency, what we talked about previously, number 7 helps out. Both the mental health and homeless ad hoc, we have identified resources and gaps and services available to the community. I don't know, I think the mental health fair could kind of fall underneath that number 6, but I think you like shining a light in some things, so we can look at that as the place to identify those recommendations.
Chair Morton?
Yes.
So on number 6, as Commissioner Vaughn was talking about, that's a perfect thing for an outcome, because what the commission was tasked to do was to identify resources and gaps. So what your outcome would be is to develop that list. So that's an outcome.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank you, Commissioner Vaughn. Awesome. A minor detail and a commitment that I'll make to the group is under number 1, the community outreach. we got stymied in this for the approval because we said attend city-sponsored events. There are other events that happen in the community that other commissions attend, so I may just come up with the other list of other things that aren't city-sponsored that we might want to attend as well will be a thing that we can go for. So that was just my brief going through everything. 8, special projects, anything on share public education of the community regarding fire safety, support, review, and make possible recommendations for the city ongoing efforts to safeguard Olevenhain and high-risk fire city zone. We, of course, did have the letter to the city council, but Dan, I know that's an issue for you. Do you feel like that's an opportunity still that we might want to investigate?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not just Station 6 anymore. Station 1's a problem, right? I mean, what is it that we want to tackle as a commission to be useful or helpful
Well,
to
we were
the
asked.
chief?
We were asked by City Council to support, review, and make possible recommendations for city ongoing efforts to safeguard Olevenhain and high-risk fire zones citywide. So, specifically to that.
Okay. Well, I remember at the time we did come up with the memo for the fire truck in Olevenhain. We also talked about the systemic flooding risk as another related issue. I wonder if that is something that we want to bring back to the forefront.
I think that it's on the infrastructure task force as a priority, and I live in that area, and you cannot drive down the 101 easily because correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they're working on some pipes and drainage there currently, and it's in the infrastructure plan to prioritize it if we have the money to do it.
We are currently putting in drainage in Leucadia Streetscape as we speak. Yes, that was the federal funding that we received from Congressman Levin, and then also City Council appropriated some more money. So we've got some pipe going in as we speak. Thank you, Commissioner Woodstrike.
And Commissioner Vaughn, to your point about that, if there was citizens throughout the year are going to come to us for things that happen. And in an attempt to stay to our work plan, it'll be important to triage events that come up that are certainly relevant and important and a concern, but make sure we're tying them to our work plan. I've been thinking about ways that we can creatively and effectively communicate the citizens' concerns, right, and bring them to the forefront, because we've had several public speakers. And what I'll recommend in the 2025 work plan is that we maybe summarize the public comments that we get and use those comments as, first, make sure they're communicated to council through our work plan, but then also take those public comments into consideration when we're considering the work plan for the next year, right, is the way that kind of information gets filtered into the whole process rather than just sort of lost, because they come and it's not on the agenda, so we can't respond to them immediately, right? But if we get tasked by the city council to do that, that opens the door to do it.
Yeah, I mean, in reality, the same people that come to our meetings for open comment give their open comments at city council meetings.
Right. So all the more reason to hear what they have to say and encourage them to come.
Yeah, I just wonder if it's value added to summarize a year's worth of those comments at the end of the year.
I do
Okay.
think some of them, for instance, the woman, Madison, who spoke today, for me, that just goes into my notes of making sure to prioritize vaping at the Mental Health Awareness Month. It's like in those sorts of things that we can plug it in to the things that we are planning. I will say I think it's helpful to keep the Identify Emerging Opportunities group. I did have someone recently reach out about the concerns of lack of parking in new developments that are being built, and the public safety factor around people that are going to have to park further away from where they live and then walk later at night and darkness. And so I think that's something that we can begin to discuss in 2025 that could be presented, as something for the city to consider when approving developments and stuff like that. But I know it's already there. Living on Vulcan, I find that the new development on the corner there really made it safer for me to run around those corners because there's sidewalks. So I think a lot of that stuff exists, and developers are required to do it. It's just people might not have the full education. But I think it's helpful to keep the emerging opportunities for those sorts of things, and we could perhaps plug them in into other areas and just take notes about where that can come up later.
Thank you. Kind of feeling like we're at a point, I've ran through everything here on the agenda. I would like to hear consensus on confirming an emotion to fill that space that we have reserved in November. Lois, can you remind us the date and time that you have currently on the calendar that's open?
Monday, November 18 at 4 p.m.
Okay.
And you did vote on that last meeting. You voted for this meeting with the possibility of the meeting in November. So if it
Okay.
is needed, it's already been approved.
All right. So let's get some consensus. Do you guys feel like it's approved? Yeah, you guys want to meet in November?
It's on my calendar.
Excellent.
It's on my,
Start happening.
I just wanted to say too,
Yeah.
just so that I'm clear, just because this is the first time we're like doing this and just to make sure that we're on task with them. First of all, is there anything like glaring that we're missing for you all, Captain in Chief, as far as the work plan goes? That'd be my first question. Then also just making sure that, with the guidance that we were given, that we come up with maybe 5 recommendations? Is that in with the instruction that we were given prior to for this next work
Right.
year?
So
Ish. They can be like a little bit longer, but you know what I mean? Like as far as things that we're actually going to accomplish this next year
So are
or
you
look
asking,
into this year.
You're asking like for a discussion or just sort of clarifying what we would be looking at to accomplish in 2025?
Well, I
Or
felt
did
like
miss-
with
did I
what
miss
we,
that?
with,
Yeah.
with what
Yeah.
we had discussed, I'm just making sure that I'm
Yeah.
clear. As far as the recommendations that we're going to be giving to city council, right?
Yeah.
We kind of discussed the emergency reference card, the
Yeah.
making access available, and then the diversity
Right.
issue, right? So those are like 3, and then
that-
you guys coming
and
up with
then
like
that-
2 or 3
and the health
of
plan,
mental
yep.
health and, right? Like,
Yep,
I guess
the
I
resources
just
card.
want to make sure that we don't,
Yeah.
and that's what we'll do November, and maybe we can pare it down even more as we're thinking about this. Just-
I'm open to it and certainly heard from, like we all did, like the recommendation on it, but at the same time, we're a group, but I'm leaning towards, they're just recommendations, right? It's a paragraph, it's what we think about, and it's up to them to think it's important or not important. And, I don't want to have an exhaustive list of 25 things we're asking city staff to do.
Sure.
But at the same time, when I feel like things we've talked about, and we're moving, right? So things that are individual passions for us that we would like city council to know, and less of like community-wide. I think we're moving to a space where we're working together, and there'll be less conversations that start with, I'd like this, and I think this should happen, and more moving to like, we've discussed, we in our AdCot, and we as a commission think we should do it, right? So I think this has been an amazing first year, and we're moving to that. So understanding that, I'm okay with having like going against what city council, what city advised. If it's 10, and they read it and they're just like, we're already doing it, or whatever. Like I'm okay with it, but that's up for the whole group to decide. So is that kind of so? But to that end,
Yeah.
I'd like Lois, if you don't mind, if you got notes, it just sort of is that too much to ask to kind of see what we've talked about so far? Of you? Is it too much? I I can wing it.
I took pretty detailed notes here if you want me to. If it's
Yeah,
if you have
whoever.
it, Lois, go for it. but-
Whoever.
That would be preferred. I might have to go through the meeting and
Yeah.
type up
So,
everything.
yeah,
I was
mean,
going to say
Yeah.
the best way to move forward, since you're just basically putting together what you discussed today,
Yeah.
is Commissioner Woodstrake can make her motion
Mm-hmm.
with her notes detailing what you guys will bring back on November 6th, or 18th, excuse me,
yeah.
to discuss. Because my understanding is you guys are putting together the work plan
Yeah,
for approval, correct?
yeah.
Okay, so I will
And,
leave
but
it to
before we
you,
do that, I
Commissioner,
just
to-
want to ask, did you feel spoken over? Did you?
Oh, no,
It's
no,
good,
no.
right? Yeah, okay.
Oh,
cool.
no, not at
Yeah.
all. Again, this is new, and just trying to make sure that we're all speaking the same language here,
Yeah.
because we don't actually get to meet very often. So, and also to be effective, I do think, certainly we have to give background, right? But I think the more we can say, hey, these are our recommendations and this is that, you know what I mean? And it's more clear, I think we'll be less likely to be pushed aside. I think if you have actionable things, say, hey, this is what we think needs to happen.
Right.
And, we're willing to help do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, versus, something, and again, I think it is a process, and we're going through that process. And even just when we were brainstorming and then coming here, it was very helpful to kind of, ping off each other a little bit. So, and then
Love it.
also hearing, kind of what they want. But again, can I ask you guys before we close? I know I've said it a couple times. Are we missing anything for you?
I think it's important, though, that we have a foundation, that you guys have a foundation for what we do. And I think that some of the confusion is maybe we need to meet as a team, and you come to the station and we either do presentations, we can bring presentations here to you on crime stats, we can bring presentations for our detective unit, traffic unit, but as a team, we can give you the foundation, and then we can look where we can either improve upon or go forward in certain direction. But I would love to meet with you guys at the station, and we could go over things more in depth and then have a presentation here.
So along those lines, we've been hamstrung by Brown Act restrictions, right? We can't talk about mental health and homelessness because they're two different ad hoc subcommittees. And for the Affordable Housing Task Force, most of those Brown restrictions don't apply. And I'm wondering, is there a opportunity for 2025 to establish a task force structure to tackle some of this, so that we could have 7 people at a non-agendized meeting at the substation getting presentations from the sheriff's deputies?
Yeah, I don't know if that's a
Is that-
recommendation.
Jennifer, is that something we can't do? Can
You
he do a
cannot.
presentation for us?
So the captain can certainly come and give a presentation here. You could certainly do a visit with like 3 of you to the station. And they're great example. SDWD, the water district, will do like Lake Hodges Dam, and they'll take 2 council members. So again, you could go as a group of 3, 2. When the sheriff's captain comes, he'll certainly give it to the entire commission. But your commission was set up, it is in Muni code, and it is a commission, so it has to live by Brown Act. And that was already established by city council, and that's how the rest of the commissions work. So they can have ad hocs as you do, but again, you can't have like a task force where more than 3 of you meet at one time.
So with a visit to the sheriff's station, can we just set a date and call that a special meeting?
If you do that, it has to be completely agendized. You'll have to have an agenda, and it has to be open to the public, because that's yeah. Let me give you an example. Another Park and Rec Commission. They do tours of several different facilities, and there's an agenda on where they're going to be. So, like, we'll be at Glen Park at 10 o'clock. We'll be at Encinitas Community Park at 10:30, and the commissioners are all there. and it's open to the public. So you could possibly do a special meeting in a different location, but it would have to be completely agendized and open to the public.
And I might suggest that the three of us, since we're resource readiness, might be able to, do that kind of meeting with the sheriff and with the fire chief also. That would be awesome. And individually, the captain, I'm sure, would approve a ride-along for any one of us. And I've already done one here in Encinitas, even though I spent 30 years doing it. I wanted to know what was happening here, I mean, every jurisdiction has different issues and different thoughts, but you can go on a ride-along, and I think your eyes would be opened pretty wide about what kind of people do the work and what the work is. There's no substitute for actually getting out there.
I think that's a great idea. I would love to do that. I think that'd be great. Thank you. Anything else, Chief?
Yeah, we would also, love to have you all out for a ride along, or 2 or 3 at a time, but probably not as fun as Captain Watts here. But with that said, I know you're looking for kind of some direction from us. Is like Captain Watts said, that foundation is a huge part for you to understand, so that you can come to the Public Health and Safety Commission with some good ideas. But we also have a very good relationship with the city manager's office, who will take some of our concerns to the city council as well. So, a lot of the things that we're working on the bigger picture right now are being communicated up the chain already. So one of the things that we're looking for you guys is we'll give you that foundation and then see what we're missing too, right? So if there was something that I could sit in front of you right now and say I'm having trouble with and I'm not being supported, I would tell you. But right now the support is very good from our city manager's office and the council, and now we're looking for you to help us with those gaps that Commissioner Taylor and Commissioner Vaughn were talking about. So.
Yeah, and that kind of echoes to what I was talking about earlier. It would be nice to hear from the council, to hear things that they are finding problematic to solve as we start working on next year's work plan. It's been frustrating to come up with things, and then you hear in some form or fashion, well, that's already being worked on, or this or that. And, all of us, our time is valuable, and to sit here and spin wheels for hours at end, it's hard to swallow at times. So getting as much information from the people that are ultimately going to make these recommendations into a reality or not would be extremely valuable.
Has the city council attended other commission meetings, committee meetings, and given that sort of direction?
No, the council has to give direction as a full body. It can't be just one. It has to be, there's 5 of them. They have to vote on 3. There have been joint special meetings. They just had a joint special commission meeting with the Park and Rec Commission to talk about naming of the land that they purchased and future uses. They've had some joint commission meetings with Planning Commission. So there could be a joint meeting in the future. It's usually to discuss a main item. It's something that council, because remember, council also has the ability to refer to commissions different tasks or opportunities. And that's what they did with the Park and Rec Commission on the land that they purchased. Another thing that I would suggest is in February, council has what we call a strategic planning work session. It is completely open to the public. It's agendized. And that's where city council members go through and they talk about what are kind of the missions, goals, and specific areas that they want to focus on. And then those are on the website under our strategic plan, and it talks about some different areas. And then they do develop goals. So that is completely open to the public. Commissioners can come. But I think what Commissioner Taylor was talking about is trying to get direction. That's kind of where the city council, that's their direction for the year. That's what they want city staff, the city manager to focus on. So that's a good thing to attend or, to listen to find out. And they do take public comment during that meeting. So we do have folks that'll say and come and talk about some different concerns. So that's just another opportunity. But if there was something where there might need to be a joint meeting with the city council, but it's usually for a specific purpose.
And I'd like to add that, like, if you're doing your research and you want to find out if the city is looking into something, staff can help answer what the other departments are currently doing or pursuing for that.
I just had one more comment with that. I'm sorry. Just real quick.
We don't get this time
for
often. It's good.
example,
Use it.
when we had that discussion about a possible fourth person on the truck company, which is very much standardized in a lot of other organizations because of the amount of work that actually needs to happen if there is something that's a commercial structure fire or something like that. Like, I know you said you're supported in those ways, but is there a way for us to know, like, some of those things, like, hey, this is in the works, or, you know what I mean, or of like updates for what you guys have going on with, or as far as resource updates, or I don't know, like with the mental health stuff, right? You guys were already working on that. Any way for us to kind of be able to understand more?
Yeah, so right now we're completing a 3 to 5 year work plan for the fire department as well, and with that comes our goals, right? And so those goals are shared up to the assistant city manager and the city manager. So I think that's what we're working on internally. Sometimes it's not necessarily public facing.
Sure.
We don't want everyone to get their hopes up on something that might not happen because of budgetary reasons, or it doesn't make sense after we do the data and the research, and then we're like, oh, I mean, the fourth person on a fire truck, with the development we're coming in, that is something that we're looking at towards the future, right? So that's a bad example of the data and research because it's pretty much there. But right now, there's nothing public facing. I'd be happy to share that with you individually when we maybe do a ride along, or you come to get that foundational education that we have.
Okay, great, thank you.
Before I ask Commissioner Woodrakes to review, just for everybody in the commission, it's good operating procedure, right? Anytime we are communicating with members of the city, make sure Lois is like in the loop on all those emails. Like, she's like the reference and touch point. We want to make sure that any kind of communications that are happening, she's aware of, so that she can keep track of all that stuff. It'll make her job a whole lot easier, make her sleep well at night, knowing that she knows everything that we're doing, right? She gets line of sight to everything. Please, if you wouldn't mind, your notes.
This is
Are
all.
you going to include the original motion, just so I know for minutes? Or are you going?
I can make a new motion that includes everything.
Okay, great, thank you.
So I am making a motion to add the following items to the 2025 work plan that is in the process of being drafted. One would be creating, the recommendation is we recommend that the city utilize the easily accessible emergency information card that the commission has developed. Two would be, we recommend that city staff collaborate with public health and safety agencies to create an easily accessible, centralized solution for residents to quickly access accurate and current crime, fire, and homelessness metrics.
Commissioner Woodstrake, if I could ask you already to amend your motion. So we're not supposed to work on the 2025 work plan.
Oh, this is the 2024 work plan to happen in 2025.
No, these are the outcomes. These are the recommendations that are going to come as a result of our 2024 work plan.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is a
these are our
recommendation for the
recommendations.
2024 work plan.
Well done. Yes.
1 and 2, I've already said. Do I need to repeat them? Okay. 3 would be We recommend that the city enhances its efforts to cross-promote the content produced by the San Diego Sheriff via social media. 4 would be, we recommend, give me 1 second. The city create opportunities to diversify the Encinitas fire and marine services by creating aspirational goals and removing barriers to recruitment by working with experts in fire leadership. 5, we recommend that the city celebrate, recognize, and host an event partnered with the Public Health and Safety Commission for Mental Health Month in the month of May. And then that's all we have for now. Do I have a motion? Or do I have a second?
Second.
Let the record show that the motion passes unanimously with Commissioner Sales absent.
Okay. Communicated action items for kind of next, in adding to the recommendations from the work plan. I intend to come with more community outreach opportunities under number 1. The homelessness ad hoc will, I don't think we need to do anything for number 5, which is invite speakers from different organizations on there, but we may come up with support, review, and make possible recommendations on the city's homeless action plan, number 8, and
6.
additionally, number 6, identify resources and gaps in services. So the homeless commission will come. I'm pretty good with number 7. Do you agree? Like, I don't think promote, educate, prevent, accessible resources. I don't think we're going to have any recommendations under that. Do you? We may. So homelessness will be looking at 8, 7, and 6 for November. Any other ad hoc or commissioner like to express an intention for the November? Now's your time. Don't feel necessary that you have to, but if you'd like to for our agenda. Okay. Barring any other questions or nods and saying, please, let this meeting keep going, not seeing them. Meeting adjourned. Thank you. City staff, thank you very much for your time today. It was very valuable. Your